Thanks for joining us in the Green Room from the Heritage Foundation. I'm Rob Bluey. Today, we're joined by Congressman Paul Ryan, chairman of the House Budget Committee, who delivered a speech here called Saving the American Idea. Congressman, thanks for visiting the Heritage Foundation.
Nice to be with you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So let's begin. How do you define the American idea?
It's the founding vision of our country. It is the idea of applying our principles that our rights come from God and nature, not from government. Liberty, freedom, free enterprise, self-determination, self-responsibility.
You had some tough things to say about the current trajectory we're on and the role that President Obama plays in that. What disappoints you most so far about the Obama presidency?
Well, I keep having new disappointments as time goes on. Number one, what disappoints me most is clearly they see we have a fiscal crisis on our hands, but they're not doing anything to address it. The president gives speeches. He uses rhetoric, but he literally has yet to put out any kind of a plan to actually prevent a debt crisis in this country. And then when those of us put out our plans to do so, he resorts to demagoguery. That to me is very dangerous because that means we're not going to have a solution anytime soon. Second thing that bothers me is how much he's changed his approach to governing and his rhetorical approach. He came into office providing the kind of hopeful leadership that's sold himself as a uniter, not a divider. You remember the thing, we don't have red states or blue states with the United States of America? Now it's quite the opposite. Now he's using this class warfare rhetoric, which is basically designed to prey on the emotions of fear, envy, and resentment, pitting people against each other, class against class, speaking to people as if they're stuck in some class, that they're stuck in their current station in life, and the government's job is to help them cope with it. That's what we left Europe for. That is what our founders fought against. That is what our veterans fight against. That's not who we are. It's the opposite of the American idea.
Now, you talked about class warfare in your speech, talking about political influence in crony capitalism as being more dangerous and a threat to America. Why is that?
Because, first of all, the math of this doesn't work. You literally can't, if you take all the income of all the Fortune 500 companies, it'd run the government for like 45 days. If you take all the income from people making about $250,000, it'd run the government for 6 months. So the math doesn't add up, but more to the point I make is, why don't we just stop subsidizing the wealthy? Why don't we stop crony capitalism and corporate welfare? Because that is the real kind of class warfare that I think threatens us. And you see this on display in other countries, where if you have a large government that is paid for by a small segment of society, and the majority are consumers, not contributing to government, then they're the ones who call the shots. Then it's the politically connected, the politically powerful, that get to divide up the spoils of government, and they, meaning government, a class of bureaucrats, pick winners and losers in society, pick winners and losers in our economy. And what that does is it erects barriers against an entrepreneurial society.
Do you see an opportunity either with the next government funding fight or with the super committee to enact some of the House-passed budget reforms that you spearheaded this year?
I think there's a shot in the select committee to do some of these things. Stop subsidizing some corporate welfare. I think farm programs. I think we could do some agricultural reform, maybe some more income or means testing of entitlement programs. And perhaps some business tax reform to get rid of all the loopholes, stop picking winners and losers, and just lower tax rates across the board. So those are things we propose in our budget. I think there's a chance of having those in the select committee. But after the select committee has come and gone, I don't see much of an interest on the other side of the aisle for doing much of anything else.
So are you optimistic or pessimistic?
I'm optimistic. I'm always like that. I'm just a glass half full kind of a person. I'm optimistic, actually. I think it's connecting, and I think the country knows it. Look, most people know the country's on the wrong track. Most people know it's unconscionable that our government has just decided not to budget for a couple of years when the biggest crisis facing us is a fiscal crisis. And I think most people know that when you keep trying to tax job creators, when you keep over-regulating job creators, when you keep injecting all this uncertainty into our economy from government, I think they know and they hear it in their communities that this isn't working. We need to go a different direction. So I'm pretty optimistic.
Congressman, thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
For the Heritage Foundation, I'm Rob Bluey.